that has been swirling around, particularly the AMD subreddit and other forums.
Yeah.
Because it was publicized that on the night of the Ryzen price reveal, Intel sent people, an email saying, "Hey, don't forget we have strong single-threaded performance," so on and so forth, other things, and people took that to mean, it's Intel trying to say, "Hey, you'll get cut off," or putting pressure on reviewers. But that happens all of the time. It's not something you typically see if you're not outside the press. But whenever a major product is released from a competitor, like, companies will write you and say, "Hey, don't forget all these strong points about our card," or "Don't forget all these strong points about our CPU." That happens every time. AMD does it too. AMD's done that to me for NVIDIA launches. "Hey, don't forget, DirectX 12 works great. We got those asynchronous shaders." So every company does it. That happens all the time. And I mean, AMD just sent out all these parts, all these motherboards, all these chips to so many reviewers. I mean, you're talking about getting chips from Intel, but I mean, everybody just got chips from AMD. It's part of what keeps independent reviews going.
Yeah, and I'll add to Brad. I think one thing I think actually the hardware review press is very much like peer-reviewed science, almost as close as you can get in journalism. Because you know what? If I go out to my Tesla that has an Intel logo on it that they gave me for free, if that were true, and it's not, I go out to my 2000 Honda Accord with the paint peeling off of it. If that were true, then all the numbers would indicate the opposite, and then it was like, whoa, what's up with PC World saying that this thing is awesome, where 95% of the rest of the testers are saying it's not true. You really, it's very hard, I think, for people to be influenced by any of that, because you got your numbers. Other people are going to have their numbers. If your numbers don't match up, and you're driving around a Tesla, and I got a big, Sir Mix-a-Lot fur coat on, you're going to know, hey, what's going on with Gordon, right? But it just doesn't happen. I mean, I know there's always conspiracy theories. Everyone's talking about this stuff. At the end of the day, you run your tests. You go back to the vendor. Again, we're still talking AMD. This is not going to be over. There will be more testing of this. Everybody's had this thing for less than a week now. I mean, most people had to go to GDC. You had, weekends. People have lives. There's just been not much time to test this. It's going to keep going. But I got to say, all the conspiracy theories about, pressure from anybody. No, there's no actual pressure. Intel and AMD, or just, the last thing, Intel and AMD are very much, they're political. It's like covering politics. Both sides are going to be constantly throwing the press their view, trying to spin things. You're going to try to spin you. And it's our jobs to keep you straight.
Everyone's saying, "Hey, you're scared of Intel kickbacks," or whatever. One, it's blatantly false. It's not true. Two, seem to be forgetting that when this 10-core chip just came out, every press outlet goes, "Yo, what the hell? This is pretty badass, but it's $1,700. Are you nuts?"
Whoa,
like,
$1,723.
$1,723.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include shipping. You still need to pay for shipping.
Yeah.
But I mean, here on the Full Nerd last year, we were doing our picks for hardware of the year, and we gave chips not applicable because we think that's so ridiculous. It was $1,700.
I tried.
That's a good episode. That's a good episode.
I tried. I'm still working my way up to that Intel branded Tesla, Brad. I tried. I thought that was just fun.
People tend to look at a lot of people who have strong emotional investments in brands, be it NVIDIA, be it Intel, be it AMD, fans. They tend to look at a negative review and consider it an attack on the brand, rather than looking back over the history of a publication. If you look back over the history of any, reputable publication, you'll see we dump on everybody equally. We praise everybody equally when they deserve it. The answer is always complicated with technology.
All right. So unless there's anything else you want to cover for the 1080 Ti, I have one last question.
Okay.
I haven't tested it yet, so I'm done.
Okay. One last question. Will it play Crysis? Confirm or deny?
We'll have to.
They will play it at 1080, but normal settings are low.
I expect to see that in the review. Your hot Crysis benchmarks. Cool.
Well, you can still use Crysis 3. Crysis 3 will still murder your PC. If you put the original Crysis on, it won't murder your PC, but it still looks damn good, and it still will make it sweat a bit.
It does. It does.
You know, Intel, I have not tried this, but of course they're like, you know, you can run Crysis on integrated graphics. Intel's told me that. Crysis, the original Crysis. Not Crysis 3, but the original Crysis you can apparently run on IGP now. And I should do it because they've said you can do it, so.
I remember my first build, I had an i5 and I got the 460, GTX 460. And I remember loading up Crysis 1, and I could play it at like 480p, you know, for like real blocky graphics. It was like,
because you didn't have a tri-SLI setup, man. 3 video cards, 3 580s. No, wait, wasn't it 580s? Was it pre-580? Were they 6800s? 6800 GTXs?
For what?
I'm just trying to think, when Crysis came out and broke everybody's boxes, I think it was the days of 6800 GTX, right?
No.
I can't remember anything at this point.
No, it was when they had the 4 numbers. It was before
8800 GTX?
Yeah.
Man, and the weird thing was, and I just realized that, wasn't the GTX after the number back then? Or was it? Yeah.
Yeah,
it was 8800 GT, 8800 GTX.
Yeah.
Where the hell did the GTX go in front?
The 480?
Yeah, it was the 400 series. Yeah.
I don't know. This is a mystery of the universe. I need to look at it. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, we got Jargon in the chat saying he played it on a 7800 GTX.
Oh yeah, it killed that 7800 GTX.
Yep, 8800.
8800 GTX.
Yep.
Tri-Slice.
You're right. Yeah.
With Core 2 Duo, it was Conroe 6800.
Nice.
Was killing it.
All right. Well, you want to move on to some questions?
Yeah, I didn't think we had any left. Really?
I mean,
go for it. Let's
do
go.
we have any from Twitter?
Yep.
I don't think our technical difficulties were.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Well, we got plenty of people in the chat asking about their stock prices. AMD releasing their stock prices, and it seems like they're taking a little bit of a hit.
Yeah, it went down $1 or so today. I was looking at it right before the thing went on.
So what does that really mean? You know, does that mean they're doomed? Can I not eat that piece of paper?
I have an opinion on this.
Gordon?
Go.
Well, one, you have people, they're profiting. Remember, this is AMD. I can't remember the last time AMD stock was at $13 to $14. So there's a lot of people profiting on the stock. Ryzen's out. 2, Wall Street analysts. Do you go to Wall Street analysts for advice on what system should you build? Do you need 8 cores? Do you need a 1080 Ti card? No, you don't. Do you really think these Wall Street analysts are gamers and building machines? I mean, there are some, but I'm going to say 99.9% of them are just looking at a spreadsheet somewhere. And they're not seeing, they see bad headline, they see, you know, poor performance, you know, at 1080 low quality setting, you're going to freak out. And then institutional investors, they may freak out too, who knows? But frankly, I don't think it's that bad.
So I'll reiterate real quick. If you have any questions for these smart gentlemen next to me, chime them in the chat right now, because I'm going to ask them. So we got a question from Stefan. Why is SLI and Crossfire so bad in games
These days?
Yeah.
Because DirectX 12, because a lot of the gaming engines tie physics to frame rate these days is one issue, and it's a lot more complicated than it used to be. 2, it's such a small percent of users that a lot of AAA games don't even bother putting the time in anymore. 3, AMD and NVIDIA tried saying, hey, DirectX 12 is going to be the great thing. We're going to, stop supporting 3 or 4-way SLI. If you want that, you can have DirectX 12. And AMD's all, DirectX 12 and Vulkan. But that puts the cost of development on the developers rather than AMD or NVIDIA. So that uptake has been slower than before. So, I mean, you're just seeing way fewer games come out with that these days.
Yeah, and it's pretty ugly. I think the last time I did some SLI testing, there are some games that it didn't, not supported, 0 movement on a 2 or 3 way box. Yeah.
That sucks. If you buy, a $300 to $500 card, if you buy 2 of them and you can only use one of them half the time, that sucks. That's just like throwing away money, man.
Although, I mean, isn't some of that also, again, AMD's absence here, because you have, I mean, as much as a $700 1080 Ti card is awesome, people are not going to have 3 of those. But if you had 1080 Ti performance for $200 and people had 3 cards and that was an upgrade path, developers might actually support it. I mean, it's like 8 cores in gaming. 99.9% of developers don't support it because what's the point?
I think part of it might also be that it's a lot less necessary these days. I mean, graphics cards are a lot more powerful than they used to be. For $200 with the RX 480, you can get 60 frames plus per second ultra on 1080p monitor. You know, with the GTX 1070, it'll nail 1440p 60 frames per second. You don't need to double up a lot these days to hit that golden, target.
But it looks cool, bro.
Oh, believe me, I know. I would love to have an SLI system or a crossfire system with some hardline water cooling, so on and so forth, but between closed-loop water coolers and the fact that half the games support SLI these days, I don't think I'm ever going to build that beast.
So Sam has a question. What do you think about FreeSync and FreeSync 2? I know, Brad, you're a huge proponent for it.
Yeah, I love all the variable refresh rate technologies, variable sync technologies. FreeSync 2 is going to be much more niche because it focuses solely on HDR displays, which aren't actually in the market yet. When they do, they're going to be expensive as hell. But FreeSync, I love it. G-Sync, I love it. I mean, it makes it so your modest hardware will look much, much better on your affordable PC display. The only thing I dislike is that they're fighting. There's no standard there. I mean, FreeSync is built on top of a standard, but it's not 100% the standard. You can't just use the FreeSync name without talking to AMD. I think it really sucks because you buy a monitor and you spend 5 or 10 years with that monitor. That means you're pretty much locked into that brand for that length of time if you want to take advantage of that. And once you use it, you can't go back. It's magical. It's great.
Would you pay the G-Sync tax at this point? Because 75% of gamers are on NVIDIA. Your monitor, your cat knocks it off your table. You got to go buy one. You're at Best Buy. You're looking at FreeSync or G-Sync.
How big is your cat? I mean, monitors are pretty,
my cat's pretty naughty. He would definitely knock over a monitor.
I work for a man, and his cat we would call, I think we called it Goodyear. We all called it Goodyear. He would get really
That's
angry.
pretty good.
But we're like, look, man, your cat looks like a Goodyear blimp.
That's pretty good.
I'm not kidding. It was like, this is one hefty cat.
That's pretty good.
G-Sync's worth it, but whether or not it's wonderful, but whether or not it's worth it to you, because they do push that as a premium add-on and they charge for it. So that's, if you get it, you'll love it. Whether or not that's worthwhile to you over, a higher refresh rate monitor or whatnot is up to you. FreeSync, you can just find it in every monitor these days because they can implement it so easily. I mean, definitely go for FreeSync.
That actually brings up a good thing we should test is the accessibility to low-cost FreeSync higher frame rate monitors is just easy to get, right? Mm-hmm. What's it like to run a GeForce card with a FreeSync panel, but given the higher refresh rates? I mean, is that worth it? Not having G-Sync, but at least getting your 120 hertz or 144 hertz.
Would that just be like a normal panel, right?
Well, but you're still pushing 144 or 160. You're still getting high frame rates, but I'm wondering how bad it is without having G-Sync. So if it's not synced to that, I kind of wonder what it's like, because most likely a lot of people have FreeSync panels and they have G-Sync or GeForce cards. Is it a horrible experience?
It would just be a normal panel. I mean, it'd be the same as any other 120 hertz panel.
But you'd still get. But I mean, when you go out to buy it, you're not really getting a 144 hertz G-Sync panel on the cheap. You might get a 144 hertz FreeSync panel on the cheap. Is it worth doing the FreeSync panel without having the G-Sync portion?
I gotcha.
Rapid fire. We got plenty of questions here. How long until 1080 Ti AIB cards?
They haven't said yet.
Okay. This Corey's thinking of jumping from a 980 Ti to a 1080 Ti, or should he wait for Vega, or when should he make that decision?
After reviews come out.
So Brad.
After the reviews for the 1080 Ti come out, if it does indeed manage to surpass, 60 frames per second at 4K, the 980 Ti cannot do that. And if that's important to you, that might be worthwhile now.
But it might be worth waiting for Vega
when it's going to launch sometime in the first half of the year. So.
Yeah, and my advice there is don't buy hardware just to buy hardware. I mean, although I'd love to be able to do that, but you're rocking a 980 Ti and you're playing at 26 by 14, and things are fine. Why upgrade at this point? Just keep going until you're like, oh man, I got to turn things down from ultra to normal, or standard, and then you got to make your upgrade choice. And technology only gets better and cheaper, right? So just wait.
I find it's usually best to wait at least 2 generations, right? With graphics cards, buy one now, skip the next one, buy the one after that. It's typically the best bang for buck if you need to stay on the relatively bleeding edge.
Okay. Tom asks, will AMD CPUs be available for laptops like Intel CPUs?
I think AMD's roadmap is end this year for a APU version, and also laptops are on the roadmap probably closer to the end of the year. What I'm really interested to see, though, because AMD CPUs that have been in laptops have generally been horrible plasticky laptops. So I'm hoping that we will see Ryzen in laptops that are really nice. Like, look at these 2-in-1s. These are beautiful 2-in-1s. I'd love to see a Ryzen chip in them. Because
it's power efficient enough.
Power efficient enough, and you got the APU. I mean, you've got.
Especially for content creation. Oh man.
Well, I mean, just even yeah.
I mean, because sometimes I need to edit a video on a laptop.
Well, you'll get. God, I don't know if they have a dual core design, but they must have a dual core design for laptops, unless they think they can squeeze down quad core. But I just, as long as they get into nice laptops, and I think that will happen. I think Ryzen is a competitive chip. People just need to stop freaking out. It's a super competitive chip.
I think what AMD's doing, just as aside for a second and take it to a meta level, is setting themselves up real well to compete in data server and enterprise space. Because everything that Ryzen rocks at is the kind of things you need at a server level. I mean, Vega coming out, a lot of the features in that is aimed squarely at server level stuff. So, and that's where the big bucks are made. So I think they're setting themselves up for that. That's what I think they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I totally 100% agree with Brad, because today also, since we are consumer focused, more Naples news came out. Naples is a 32-core server-focused CPU, right? Ooh. Intel tops out at what, 14, 16 cores? And they are a buttload of money. So I don't know what Naples is going to be priced at, but you're looking at 32 cores. These are monster chips. So, and as much as we all love our gaming laptops and gaming desktops and all this stuff, if AMD, which is basically non-existent in servers, if they get, I think an analyst told me if they get like 5% of servers, which is incredible, right? If they got 5% of servers next year, you're looking at like $5 billion. So that's really where the play is. That's where a lot of money is. This is cool stuff to talk about, get headlines, but server is where the big play is.
All right. I lost it. Bruce asks, what's the best GTX bang for your buck right now?
It always depends on your monitor. I mean, because what you should do is figure out what your monitor runs at and try to match up your graphics card to that. But I personally think that the best bang for buck is GTX 1070. Does so much. I mean, as long as GTX 1070 kicks all kind of butt. I think overall the Radeon RX 480 is better for the majority of people. But if you're looking for GeForce specifically and flexibility, GTX 1070 kicks all kinds of butt.
The 1070 still priced at $350-ish?
Right around there. Okay. Yeah, there's always sales that, bring it a little bit down these days, not that stocks.
Man, it would have been awesome if they cut the price of the 1070 too, right? Because they shaved $100 off the 1080 price. Shave $100 off the 1070 too.
Here's a good one. Moise from the UK asks a question: who came up with the idea of 3570K versus 1800X blog post on PC World?
That was me. And that was Ryzen 1700, which is very different from the 1800X. It's $170 different. Because, like I said earlier, as people who watch the show often, I have this 3570K. That's my personal PC, and I've been looking to upgrade because it chokes a little bit sometimes in open world games. It doesn't have all the modern features like NVMe SSDs. It doesn't have USB 3.1. So, as a gamer, I wanted to see hey, does this rig that I already have, is it competitive with, a decent upper end but middle of the line, a kind of PC that people would actually buy Ryzen, system. And that's what I tested.
All right. I'm not even going to try this name. Asks, can you do 5+ way SLI?
No. In fact, SLI
What does it
tops out
top
at
out?
2-way. SLI is just 2-way now.
I mean, you can throw all the ones you want in like a GPU mining rig.
Bitcoins?
Do you remember there was this XL ATX spec for just an insane amount of graphics cards? So I think it was like 4+1 for other stuff. But no, 5-way's never ever officially happened.
Sebastian asks, Ryzen on Windows 7, what do you think the level of support is for that?
We should test that.
Yeah, we should actually.
Do you have that? I don't have Windows 7 install around here.
I gotta look for an ISO. I think it would be ugly. Officially Ryzen, KB Lake, there is no Windows 7 support. This is Intel and AMD basically listening to Microsoft's advice and saying, look, don't support these old platforms. You move them to Windows 10 only for Ryzen and for KB Lake. I